Hey guys, ArtOrAut here, switching tones a bit by bringing you something a little less jokey. Well, actually, it's downright disturbing. Okay, this begins with a woman, whose name is withheld to protect her identity, being subjected to sexual assault in her home. Basically, a man forced his way into her house, said, "I'm here for you," and chased the terrified lass around the home. Her husband was at work, so she was alone. She found a gun, he grabbed it, they struggled. Her hand was injured. Shots were fired, fortunately not striking her. Less fortunately not striking him, until finally the man fled from the scene. The police were called, they arrived, her report was taken, etc., etc., and normally that would be the end of story. Except it wasn't. 2 days later she was assaulted again, by a different guy this time, only she was understandably paranoid and prepared this time. So when the police arrived on the scene, she was holding him at gunpoint. Haha, rapist caught. End of story now, right? Well, no. See, the intruder said that he was only here because she wanted him to rape her. Okay, that's admittedly the defense almost every rapist has ever given. But in this case, he was surprisingly specific. He said that he had been responding to a Craigslist ad posted by this woman, specifically requesting that someone come to her home, a complete stranger, and force themselves upon her, pursuing and taking her, no matter what she said or did to try and protest, or evidently everything short of pulling a gun. So, I mean, bullshit, right? This guy's caught, he's looking for an easy excuse, Well, as it turns out, no, the guy wasn't lying. The authorities investigated his claim, and they found that on the phone of this intruder, there were a string of emails that supported the man's theory. Emails in which he spoke with someone about fake raping her, with address and contact information included, along with the warning that no matter what she did or said, he was not to stop. Now, the person on the other end of these emails was at least portraying themselves as the victim. So, obviously this means the woman was lying for some reason, right? Well, no. See, they traced the origins of the sent emails via IP address or some techie thing that goes right over my head to a computer at the Army National Guard. Now, the very same place, as it turns out, that this woman's husband works. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, this woman's husband was responsible for organizing this attempted rape on his own wife without her knowledge, let alone her consent. He was returning home when these attempted assaults were taking place, and when he arrived, he was confronted by the authorities and ended up admitting to his involvement, after which, of course, he was taken into custody. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up now is because within the last couple of weeks, it has been revealed that the man in question has been released from confinement after about a month in jail. His release is on the condition that he seeks aid for his post-traumatic stress disorder. See, during part of the man's tenure in the National Guard, he spent about 12 months serving in Iraq, which evidently somehow explains his behavior, or excuses it, or both, somehow. I'm sorry, guys. Look, I'm all for supporting the troops. I mean, they're generally in hostile territory, serving for governments and institutions that leave them underpaid and overworked, often just because they believe that they owe it to society. Now, I do agree that we owe a debt to these men and women who have served, no matter what we might say about the legitimacy or justifications behind the conflicts they've been thrown into. Discussions of that scale are to be taken up with the policymakers and the brains behind these operations, though, not the poor people having to do the legwork. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that post-traumatic stress disorder isn't a legitimate or serious problem, as denying the obviously profound impact that high-stress situations have on the human psyche would be foolish. Now, my problem, in truth, has more to do with whether or not it really fits into this situation. I mean, this wasn't a violent outburst, as he didn't hit her or try to force himself on her, or, as far as I know, try to take his own life. In fact, this was disturbingly devoid of passion or rage. He went onto his work computer, went to Craigslist, and started posing as his wife to solicit men to come and force themselves on her, carrying out strings of subsequent emails with various men to arrange this. I mean, that doesn't strike me as a violent outburst or a moment of mental illness. It's a deliberate, consistent, and disturbingly well thought out assault. Cold and calculated. So where does this place it on the line between mental illness and moral failings? I mean, sure, one tenet of the insanity plea is that the individual does not try to hide that they're complicit in the crime, and therefore it could be said that him admitting that he did it would make this a valid defense. But really, they linked all this to the husband before he even got home, and I can't help but wonder if admitting to what he did was so much the naive reaction of someone who is mentally unwell, or the all-too-logical actions of a man realizing that his back is to the wall. It's doubtful he'd be able to wiggle out of this, so if he fesses up, then his defense in the future is all the stronger. I mean, after all, the results speak for themselves as he's officially out of jail after only a month. Now, I'm not saying that this is the case, but it just seems that releasing this man after so short a period back into society without even a slap on the wrist and only the encouragement to seek help for himself, it's a little disturbing. I mean, if he was able to do this sort of thing to his own wife, well then what else might he decide to do? Perhaps there's going to be some parole requirements, maybe monitoring. Honestly, I hope so, because contrary to evidently popular belief floating about, risking your life for us does not entitle you to start endangering the lives of others. Anyway, guys, it's a bit of a short confessions tonight. Sorry about that. Hope everyone had a good night, and just remember that when you're organizing a fake rape, have a face-to-face meeting first. Idiots.